Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. I like to spend about a half hour on Tuesdays at noon Eastern talking about job search and answering questions that I've received from people about their job search. Because I don't believe it has to be that hard, difficult, painful, or take as long as it does. It's just the skills needed to find a job are different from those needed to do a job. And most people act as though if I recite a bunch of facts and present them in a cogent way, that's not enough to get hired. So I take some time to answer questions from people that are sent to me in advance. They're sent to me through LinkedIn chat, through Facebook, on my No BS coaching advice page there, and of course on YouTube, where I've got Job Search TV as my channel there. So I just want to encourage you, if you have a question for me about job search, put your questions about job search into chat so I can help you. I want to help you. And I want to also remind you, let's see now if I do this right. Yeah, jobsearch.community. That's my newest site where I have a few free pieces of content on the homepage. It's about a half a dozen pieces of content that you can download, listen to, or watch. And thus, from there, what I want to do is uh, encourage you. Join me. Sorry, a message popped up from an email that distracted me. I want to also encourage you to become an insider on the site because you get all my other video courses, books, and guides that way. Plus, I'll answer your questions, or an Insider Plus member where you get all of that. Plus, you can get me on 2 Zoom calls a month, or an Insider Premium member where I do group and individual coaching. So, again, that's, let's see now if I do this right. Yeah, jobsearch.community. Ooh, yes, I've got a Zoom background on, obviously. So I've received a number of questions from people. And if you're on LinkedIn, there's a slight delay in when you are watching this and when I receive your questions. So I'm going to field them, of course, but I want to make sure you know it may not be instantaneous. Now, the first question is, why is it important to keep your resume up to date? Well, the big thing really comes down to when there's an opportunity, you need to be able to act on it because it's not sitting around waiting for you to get around to take a week or so to write your resume. Recruiters, both corporate and third party, are reaching out to other people for these jobs, to fill these jobs, because they can't be sure that you're qualified, you're going to be interested in joining them, let alone interested in joining them at the price that they might be prepared to pay you. So you need to be prepared to act quickly and thus periodically, like I'm a believer in doing it every 3 months, to do an update of your resume, to me makes a lot of sense. So there's no time wasted. Also, comes review time. Sometimes people are in situations where their manager has left and they have to be prepared for a review. By keeping your resume up to date, it reminds you of your accomplishments during the time that you've worked for this firm. So you don't have to panic. You're prepared for review time so that in this way, it doesn't take a lot of effort to be able to respond to the questions that'll come up during your review. You are ready. So, again, my advice is generally update it every 3 months because that makes it easy. Think in terms of what you've accomplished during that 3 month period that you want to add to your resume. If it's more of the same, keep it in a separate file because you may want to tweak the language a little bit in order to make your resume more powerful. So that's the two main reasons why you update your resume regularly. Next question, and I like this question a lot. Describe the primary differentiators between successful job searchers and those that struggle. Is it the consistency of the search, the attitude, the follow up? What are your tip offs that give you a leading indicator on future success? Let me start with that last question because it really is easy for me to spot where the problems for people come down to. The biggest differentiator between successful job hunters and those who will struggle is what they do between job searches. Are they building their network? Are they building their brand reputation? What are they doing to make themselves known? Not just simply within their organization, but with outside the organization, so that people get to know, like, trust, and respect them and their ideas of things. So it's really about maintaining or enhancing your network, building your brand, which isn't about running commercials on TV. It can be about writing for LinkedIn and doing stories there that relate to the work that you do. It can involve commenting on people's posts, so people get to respect your thinking. You staying in touch with recruiters from your past, not because you're out looking for another job, but you want to maintain the contact with them. Excuse me. After all, the person who gets ahead isn't always the smartest. They don't always work the hardest, although those are great qualities to have. People get ahead by being alert to opportunity. Most of the time, they're going to be external to your organization. Sometimes they're internal. And like the answer to my previous question, having your resume up to date allows you to interview internally for opportunities as well as externally. So that's the leading indicator. The things people do between job searches that helps build their brand and maintain their network. Now, the primary differentiators between successful job searchers and those that struggle beyond that, because those are two things that the people who are more successful always do. It's really about maintaining a level attitude and not allowing themselves to get pulled into a funk. I trained and ran the New York Marathon some years ago, and it was a lot of work. I spent a year training for it. The first 6 months were training myself to run 6 days a week and being ready to do that. And the goal I had was the first week I would run 3 miles, then 2 miles, 3 miles, then 2 miles, 3 miles, and then 6 miles. That was the schedule for that. I worked to get to that schedule. And then from there, I had an outline of what to do. Most people don't really know what to do. They think they just apply for jobs. Part of what I do with jobsearch.community is I give you a ton of information to help you. For example, I've got one PDF, 101 ways to find job leads, that goes beyond simply answering ads. It's actually more than 101, but I just think it's a better title with 101 ways to find job leads. And thus, what you're able to do is do things that other people don't do to get yourself in front of people so that they want to interview you. And then from there, I teach how to interview like an all-star. I've got a great video course about that at jobsearch.community. So I'll just simply say, or you can hire me to coach you and do interview coaching. Um, but it's a lot less expensive to watch the video course at jobsearch.community. So the differentiators are really number one and two, the things that people do between job searches to keep their name out in front of people. Number three is attitude. What do you do to maintain the even keel and do the work that's necessary? The marathon story, I talked about training for 6 months to be able to run 6 days a week. And when I told people I was going to run the marathon, their response was, "Yippee, you're going to run the marathon." They were very happy for me. And for a week or so, they would ask me how things were going. And then they all disappeared. And I had to do the work. And it's like a job search. You have to do the work out of the limelight so that you can get to the point of race day. Because a week or two before the marathon, people will start to contact me and they'd say, "Are you running the marathon in 2 weeks? Wow. I hope you finish, you do great." And that's really how it is with job search. You're going to have to do a lot of quiet work where no one's watching you. And you're going to have to do it and not get a lot of feedback. Part of the reason for my developing jobsearch.community is to be able to answer questions from people who need advice, because most of the time people get advice from amateurs who really don't know squat, versus me, who worked in search for a long time, filled a lot of positions, and now people hire me for no BS job search advice and career coaching, so I can help make a job search much easier for people and that they're successful once they're on board in their new role. So that's really my thinking about how to answer that question. I hope that's helpful to you. And I'm just going to remind some of you folks to put your questions about job search into chat. I'd be very happy to answer them. Next question. Are you able to see on LinkedIn? I want to get this into chat. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Are you able to see on LinkedIn who searches your name or views your profile? Yes. And let me start by saying you can see people search for you when you showed up in LinkedIn search. And you can see when people who are not hiding their profile viewed your profile. You need to visit your dashboard search analytics page and your who viewed your profile page to learn more. Usually, and I'm going to say usually because maybe this will change at the time you're watching this show, you need to be a paid member of LinkedIn. That this is not available as a free option for people. But as a paid member, you're able to see who views your profile as long as they're not hiding it, because they do have that option to hide. And thus, I always encourage people, if someone looked at your profile but they didn't connect with you, send them a quick note that says, "LinkedIn told me you looked at my profile. Let's connect. What can I do to help you?" And thus, you're starting to expand your network. I'm sorry. The note reads, "LinkedIn told me you looked at my profile. Let's connect. Was there something you were looking for in particular when you were looking at my profile? And what can I do to help you?" That's the way you send a message to people on LinkedIn about, who looked at your profile. And beyond that, like I said, there's a way to do it as long as they're not hiding and if you're a paid member. Oh, yeah, I like this one. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Now, coming back to the question, next question. I worked in one role for companies for a long time, like 20 years, and switched to something I liked doing 5 years ago. How do I show that on my resume and LinkedIn profile? So let me start. Well, actually, it doesn't matter which one I start with. You minimize the older information on both. You do it differently on each, and I'll get to that in a second. But you want to optimize your current work and make sure that it's keyword rich to attract people to your profile so that they want to contact you. And I say you minimize the older information, particularly on LinkedIn, because, and it's also true if you're applying for jobs on job boards or other places, but you want to minimize the older information because you don't want people finding you when they're searching and then reaching out to you for old work. You want to expand upon the current work and minimize the older. On a resume, that can be something as simple as using the example that this person has, working at one company for a long time, or in one role for companies for a long time, like 20 years. And on a resume, you write prior experience was with and you list the firms there where I worked doing such and such, such and such, and such and such. And you list a couple of things that you did for that 20-year period. You could put the dates there, but I'm not really a fan of that. Let them ask you about your dates when they get to your resume. But the long and the short of it is you want to keyword optimize your current work because that's what's really going to attract them to you. And then minimize the older stuff so that in this way, they're not finding you so easily. And again, true for your LinkedIn profile, you cut back on the number of paragraphs on the older work, and then from there, optimize the current work. Now, LinkedIn user wrote, let's see now, on the comment to do things that others don't do. I went to a company job fair a few months ago, and I was the only one there. It was both poorly organized and also a good opportunity for me since I got a lot of attention from the recruiters. There was nothing for me at that job fair, but a recruiter contact I made there is one of my job leads now. So something I did 5 months ago is paying me back now. Great story. Absolutely fabulous story. And notice, pat on the back. Now, a lot of people don't want to go to job fairs. And by the way, when LinkedIn user shows up on a profile, this individual is hiding who they are. So in response to that previous question about are you able to see on LinkedIn who searches your name? Well, not if they hide it like LinkedIn user just did, so that I can't see who it is, and that's okay. Uh, my it doesn't matter who you are. It's ask a question. I'm here to help. But it just became a good illustration of the point I was making that unless someone hides their name, you can see their profile and thus be able to get in touch, connect, and start doing things to build relationships. Let me go to the next question. And I'm just going to remind you if you have a question for me, like this LinkedIn user did, put it into chat so I can help you. Next question, which is wonderful. Let me come there. Good. What would you do if you were hired but didn't like your job? So I don't know how long this is into your new job. So let's assume it's pretty early in your tenure. Is it because the job was misrepresented to you? That's always a possibility because firms often exaggerate opportunities and the nature of the work and what it's like to work there in order to attract people to join them because they want to fill a job on staff. So if it's fairly current and the position was misrepresented to you, I continue to work hard. I meet with my manager and say, I had the idea when I was about to join, I'd be doing such and such. And now I'm doing something pretty different that I don't find quite as appealing. And then you shut up. Don't say anything else after that line. Because the more you say, the more they're going to think, uh-oh, I'm going to be in trouble. This person's going to quit on me. So you don't want to get that far. You want to say, did I misunderstand something? But I had the idea from our interviews that I'd be involved with such and such. And I'm not doing that kind of work now. I'm doing this other kind, whatever that is. And, I'm concerned. And again, be quiet. Oh, we need you to do this temporarily. Okay. And how long do you think temporarily is going to be? Because if I know, I can manage my expectations and know that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. So I approached it pretty quickly after I found this work was unappealing. And then if you didn't like the answer, I continue to work hard and I'd start looking for something else. So you're giving your manager the chance to explain why you're not doing something that they said you'd be doing. And maybe there is a temporary need, or maybe they just outright lied, which happens much too frequently. As I've quipped many times before, there are three jokes in the recruiting business. How can you tell an applicant is lying to you? Answer is their lips are moving. How can you tell a client is lying to you? Their lips are moving. And of course, how can you tell a recruiter is lying to you? Of course, their lips are moving because everyone's posturing for advantage in the situation. So that in this way, they get what they want. You, as a job hunter, get a job offer and join a firm. For them, they fill in a position on their staff that they need to have filled. And for the recruiter, they get paid. They like getting paid. But that's not your job, is to make sure that the other two are satisfied. Your job is to be satisfied yourself. So again, I'd have a conversation with my manager. Did I misunderstand something here? Or when you talk with me about the role, you said I'd be doing such and such. And I'm not really seeing evidence of that yet. And then you're quiet. Let them talk. Is that a problem? It might be if you're telling me that this is my job, because then you misrepresented it to me. But if you're telling me that this is going to be for a short period of time, I can handle that. So is it a problem for you that I'm unhappy doing this kind of work? Throw it back at them. Why should you be the only one on the defensive? Is it a problem for you that I don't like doing this kind of work? It's not, after all, it's not what you told me I was going to be doing. Oh, we can make this work. Okay. I can be patient, but not forever. Let me try and continue doing this work. When do you think this might resolve itself? They'll give you an idea. Great. I appreciate the time with you, and then you move on. Okay. Oh, yes. How come I applied for 500 jobs but did not get one interview? That's easy. You're not qualified. Your resume didn't make a case that you're qualified for any of those 500 jobs. And that's why you're not getting interviews. When people tell me that they've applied to 500 jobs, first of all, I think it's an exaggeration. But let's assume for a second that it isn't. Let's assume it's true for a moment. What it tells me is they're spamming their resume to the Western Hemisphere. And thus, they're not getting a response because they're not really qualified for these jobs. When firms are in a situation where they're hiring, they want to see something in the resume that demonstrates you're fit for the role. And they're not seeing it. The result winds up being they're not asking to meet you. You may think you're qualified, but your resume doesn't make a case for it. You may want to do this kind of work, but your resume doesn't demonstrate anything that indicates that you can do this kind of work, or you have the experience doing this kind of work. And it's not their goal to make you happy by giving you a job that you want. Their job is to find someone who can solve their problem. and your 500 resume submissions or job applications that you've submitted don't get it done for them. It doesn't persuade them that you're qualified, let alone interested and available to do this kind of work. So, that's the reason you're not getting interviews. The long and the short of it is you're not qualified, or your resume doesn't demonstrate that you're qualified to do this kind of work. Yes. How best to answer this question in an interview? How much is your salary expectation? This results in my talking about defer and deflect. I speak about this with regularity because normally the person who's asking this question is a screener. There's someone there to screen out people who are not qualified. And thus, when they're asking about what's your salary expectation, they want to hear a number. But you really don't know enough about the job to be tied into that number. So I believe in defer and deflect. And here's how I would respond. Well, thanks for asking the question. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know enough to give you a solid number. After all I've done is read a job ad. I'm talking to you on the phone or in person or over Zoom, whatever it is. And I haven't met my future manager, heard about the role and responsibilities from them, what their expectations of me will be. I haven't met my future team and the people there, and some of them are going to make my life much more pleasant than others. So could we circle back to this after I've met with some more people? But I need a number. Well, let me tell you, I can give you a number, but the fact of the matter is, since I don't know enough to be wed to this number, it's possible that after I meet the team, meet my future boss, and have a clearer idea, I might want to ask for more or less. So I can tell you a number, but understand I'm not committed to that number. Not until I've met with my boss, have a clear idea of what their expectations for me will be. Not until I've met the team, because all I've done is I've read a job ad, or was referred by a recruiter or someone internal to the firm, whomever it is. And I need to know more in order to be able to get wed to that number. Can we talk about this after I've met with additional people? And if they have a problem with this, you are in great stead, because the fact of the matter is, I think people who get pushed into answering questions like this wind up being unhappy in the new role. And HR is basically doing a box checking exercise. Okay, I got a number. Got the number. Let's make them say yes to our offer. And then you find out more, and then you want more. And you're not prepared to do it because you said a specific number that gets their attention. So the long and the short of it is, try it my way. Okay. And I'm just going to remind you before I go into the last question. If you've got a question about job search, put it into chat so I can answer it. And I mention this because, well, frankly, if you do have a question, I'll extend the show a little bit in order to be able to answer your question. So I'm going to pause at this point and just simply say, I'm Jeff Altman. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you found it helpful. If you did and you're watching it on YouTube, share it, leave a comment, click the like button, do something that lets people know it was worthwhile. If you're watching on LinkedIn, do much the same thing. Share it, leave a comment, click the like button. Again, it helps other people discover this. I'll be back next Tuesday with more Career Coach office hours. I'll just again remind you. I've got another question that got snuck in here. let's see if I can follow this correctly. I've been averaging 1 to 3 applications per week. I've commonly heard about people applying to 100 to 500. Is that really accurate? I hope not. I know I'm being selective, but what have you been seeing from those who get jobs and the number of applications they submit before being hired? I'm not seeing in information about applications. So I want to be clear about that. I know people apply for a lot of jobs because those are the comments that people make on LinkedIn. Uh, I've been applying to a lot of jobs. I'm not getting any feedback. I'm not getting any offers, what have you. But that's one of the issues that people have. Now, verbally, I can defer salary, but when you apply and a number is required, what do? You indicate what your current compensation is, or you give them, uh, you might enter zeros as the answer to see if the system will accept that, or a particularly low number. And then in the comments field, you say, look, I don't really know enough in order to be wed to this number. So the result is I put in something for your system, but I need to know a lot more in order to be clear about what it is that I'm looking for. And you kind of play it that way. Give them something, and then in the comments field, respond and say, I'm giving you a number, but I'm not committed to it. I need to know a lot more about the job in order to be certain about this being the right thing for me. Okay. And again, continuing with my outro, uh, I'm Jeff Altman. Also connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/ the big game hunter. Mention that you saw the show. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. Once we're connected, my network is going to be a lot larger than yours. It's going to expand your reach by a lot. Again, come to jobsearch.community. I've got a half a dozen books, video courses, guides on the homepage that you can download for free. Plus, if you become an insider member, or an insider plus member, or an insider premium member, there's a lot more that you get. I have a list of the video courses, books, and guides on the homepage that you get by becoming a member. I've made this very inexpensive. Like an insider costs you $49 a month. I used to charge that for a single one of my courses. And you'll see I've got a whole bunch of them there, and more being added over the next month or two. So become an insider member at a minimum, because you can also ask me questions and get answers to your questions in a timely way. My goal is to answer questions within 24 hours with few exceptions. Like this weekend, I'm away for a few days. I'm going to be out of pocket. I'm in a place where cell service is awful. So this weekend, no, but normally I'm able to be in contact with people within 24 hours. And again, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/ the big game hunter. Hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.